The Hollow Man. This happened to me about 10 years ago, when I was 14. It was a warm summer night in 2012. I was walking around the city with my friends Robbie and his older cousin Justin. We had all been neighbours for about 4 years now, and our families knew each other, so it was quite normal for us to all be hanging out together despite the age gaps. During our walk, we decided to take a shortcut through the cemetery. It was after hours, and I'm pretty sure it was illegal for us to be in there at that time, but we weren't doing anything other than cutting through, which we would often do during the day as well. As we were walking down the path, we saw headlights turning into the cemetery, and the boys, of course, darted way ahead of me into the tree line. Since the boys ran ahead of me off the path and away from the lights, it was pitch black. There was residual light twinkling through the branches as I made my way down into the trees, but it dropped down to a slight hill, and the light was lost. I was walking along trying to be as quiet as possible, almost blind due to my eyes not adjusting yet, and that's when the feeling of dread set in. I had no idea where the boys were, I couldn't see, and I didn't want to be caught by the police by myself. But there was something else. Almost a chill in the air on this warm night in July. I tried to brush off this uneasy feeling, thinking it was just my nerves or being scared because the boys took off without me, but alarms were going off in my head like something was very, very wrong, and apart from legal reasons, I should not be there. I make out a shape to the left of me as I'm walking. I take a couple steps towards it. "Guys, is that you?" Nothing, no response. I take a few more steps forward and I swear to God, just like the movies, a freaking twig snaps under my foot. Now the reason I had thought it was the boys is because this shape was crouched down next to a pile of brush and was big enough to look like two people haunches over. I thought they had been hiding there, but when the twig snapped, I stopped in my tracks as this thing stood up and towered over me. I was about 5 feet tall at the time, and this thing was easily two of me stacked right on top of each other. Whatever this thing was, it was only 15 feet or so away from me, and I was frozen with horror. It was facing away from me at first, then its neck/head almost swiveled around like an owl, and I was met with an oval-shaped grey face with no nose or mouth, only two black hollow eye sockets. The rest of this thing's body was pitch black against the dark trees. The light from the path is no longer streaming through the branches. It was just me, this thing that seemed like the personification of darkness itself. This thing and I stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. The woods around me, through the corners of my eyes, was getting darker, and my heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it through my entire body. Every tiny hair on my body was prickling. I was cold. The only thing I can remember thinking was, this is it. I'm never going to see my family again. The body of this thing had followed its head and swiveled, so now I could see its long, curved arms held right up to what would be this thing's chest. Its legs were similarly curved, almost like it wasn't standing at full height, but still slightly crouching down. Its body was almost translucent, and it looked like it was wearing some kind of hooded cloak that was see-through as well. The only thing that was 100% solid was its face, and its void-like eyes that made me feel like I was staring right into the depths of hell. Neither of us moved. We were locked in the most terrifying staring contest for what felt like an eternity, until a strange feeling came over me. I felt like I could move again, and I had the energy to run a 5K marathon without breaking a sweat. Then I heard a calm but stern voice say, "Go, now run." It's kind of hard to explain where the voice was coming from exactly. It was sort of in my head, but all around me at the same time. I'm getting chills as I write this. I know the voice did not come from whatever this thing was in front of me, because when I heard the voice speak, it looked as if this horrid creature recoiled at the sound of it. Like it took a step or two backwards and kind of ducked its head down. I saw this as my chance, and I turned away from this thing, and I start bolting down further into the tree line, no longer caring about being quiet and crashing around through the bush, like an animal being chased by some predator. I could almost feel this thing right on my tail, but after running about 200 feet, I run directly into the boys, literally crashing into them. I'm obviously scared and pissed, so I ask why the hell they left me like that, and they apologized. Apparently I had been missing for almost half an hour, and they had already searched the direction I ran from. They heard weird whispering voices all around the woods while I was gone, like the voices were coming from everywhere around them. They said right before I crashed into them, the whispering stopped. I told them about what I saw, and all they said was that we should get out of here. We left the cemetery very quickly, and as soon as we walked out of the gates, it was like we all let out this sigh of relief. We never talked about that night again, and even during the day, none of us ever took that shortcut through the cemetery. I still live in the same city, and to this day, I avoid it like the plague. I won't even drive by it.